welcome to This Week in White Supremacy. My name is Jasiri X. I'm co-founder and CEO of One Hood Media. We have a very special episode we want to share with you today, featuring New York Times bestselling author Adrienne Maree Brown, a sister that's rooted in movement work that I've known for many years. She put out a book last year called Loving Corrections and came to Pittsburgh and did an amazing interview with us. What made the interview even more amazing, it is facilitated by our other co-founder. If you ever wondered who the other co-founder of One Hood Media is, Celeste Smith, who is an amazing movement person of her own right and also somebody that's a star in philanthropy. So this is the conversation between Celeste and Adrienne. It's powerful, and tune in.
So before we start, just for a show of hands, has anyone in the audience read the new book yet?
I would be very surprised since you just bought it.
Look, I had to read it right quick.
Yeah, you had to read it, but we'll talk about it.
We're going to talk about it. And I'm going to tell you the very first, so a bunch of thoughts hit me when I first opened this book. And the first one was like, oh shit, Adrienne ain't fucking around, right? That's the first piece. And the second piece of it, I was like, with all of the subject matters and the ins and outs, I was like, Jasiri, really trust me. I'm up here having this conversation on behalf of all of the things that you're holding in this book. So shout out to Jasiri, thank you. And the other part I was thinking, I was like, the movement needs this book.
Right.
And, some of the things you talk about, which are family and accountability and, but loving accountability and not policing and what are these things? There's so many themes. And I guess the first question I have is I like reading through it because you could do an hour talk just on every, I want to say page, but for real, right? Because you break it down, right? And so how did you land on these particular subjects to elevate in terms of what we're navigating?
Yeah, thank you. So the book is in two parts. The first section is called Ruminations. The first part was when I would get upset about something that I was I'm in relationship to cis men, I'm in relationship to white people, I'm in relationship to able-bodied people, and I see them and I see me. I see us keep making the same mistakes over and over again, even though we know better, and not being able to make a direct cut, right? Just be can we just cut straight to it? So I was let me try it out. And with each thing, it would be I'm going to write this word to white people. And I'm just going to say what I want to say to white people. Especially when I would be facilitating, because when you facilitate, people come tell you stuff on the side that they won't. Then you make a room and you'd be okay, let's talk about that. And then they don't ever say it in the space or to the person. So I was okay, maybe I can do some of the work for people. So the ruminations are in the front. And then the second part of it is Murmurations, which is a column that I wrote for Yes Magazine. And it was about accountability. And I kept feeling everyone thinks of accountability as something you demand from others, and it's something you're pointing at others to have. And I was well, what would it take for me to become the most accountable person I could be? And if I started from within myself, my relationship to myself, and then how I communicate and how I'm in friendship and how I'm in relationship and how I break up and how things end and how I relate to the earth. I was just let me keep growing it out and building it out. So when I finished the second part of it, someone suggested to me, that's kind of the way you facilitate loving correction. This, I'm mostly kind, I'm mostly loving, but if someone needs to be gathered, they'll send me and I'll get them. But my whole thing is, how do we have conflict and difference and truly grow without letting go of each other? And what I keep seeing inside of both movement and the culture at large is what we're being socialized to do is let go of each other and find reasons to tear each other down and look at each other and see the systems in each other and be you are that system, instead of being you're in that system and that system is in you. And we have to extract it from you and extract you from it, because those ideas are toxic and the ideas need to die, but we need to live. So that's the experiment of the book.
Yeah, and even like the first chapter, right? You're talking about relinquishing the patriarchy, right? And just a woman, I'm reading it, and I'm going through it, and I'm like, yeah, that was patriarchy, right? And it's like holding the space, and what it felt like, just in, like I said, opening. You're inviting us into the kitchen table at Grandma's house.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we sitting around this table and we talking about stuff that we may talk about, right? But we don't have this dialogue writ large.
Yeah.
And so can you talk a little bit about the importance of having it on a stage, like some of the topics?
Yeah. Relinquishing the patriarchy, it's the first one for a reason. It feels like such a foundational system inside of movement space that, I felt myself hitting against it or coming against it all the time. And what I found was all the women in my life who were staying in intimate relationship with cis men, we were having these same conversations. And these are like radical feminists. And they were like, I married him because I thought he was a feminist, or he said he was a feminist. But then around 30 to 40 years old, there's something that would happen. And a lot of the men, even if they had their best intentions, were reverting into something, or they were falling back into a system that protected their power. And these are men that I was like, I think of you as a brother. I love you. I watched you grow up. And I can't believe you're treating this woman this way. And then I would be in movement spaces with all the most powerful women in the world and watching brothers stumble in the space and cause a lot of harm, and watching these powerful women like not know how to just say in the moment, hey, that's not working for us, but I love you. I'm not trying to get you out of here, but you need to find a different way to be here. So I was like, let me write a piece that allows that. And it really was, I ran it by all the, I have all these women in my life. I always joke because I'm like, you don't have to be straight. You don't have to keep doing this. You don't have to keep putting yourself through this, right? And there's so many options now, there's so many different ways of dating people. But I'm like, if you are going to choose to be in relationship with cis men, then it needs to be from a place of love. It can't be from a place of like, he can't grow. He's just the way he is. In the same way, we can't be stuck. We're just the way we are. Everyone has to be changing all the time. And so the piece, my hope is that people can use the piece in relationship, that they can sit down with men that they love and say, can you read this and can we talk about it? And say, some of this is true for me, or some of this is true in our experience. Listen, y'all got the sounds happening. There's a lot of mystery. But it's also because I felt like so many of the men in my life were so lonely. Like there's this loneliness of like, I don't know how to make the kind of friendship I need for the next part of my life, right? Like we all can have the friends that we need for the first part of our lives, but then we lose a parent, or we lose a close friend, or genocide is happening, or our town gets flooded. Like where I live, everything is underwater right now. It's wild. And you need a different kind of friendship for that. You need folks who are like, I'm a grown-up ready to do grown-up things. And I find that men struggled with that adult friendship. And so they often will lean on the women in their lives to be that, like, you're the place where I go with my emotions. So yeah, I wanted to write something that was like, let's protect the place you go with your emotions and expand your capacity to be in that emotional space with other men. And a lot of men this came out as an essay. It was published long before this book. And I've had a lot of men say that they started working in groups and sitting down and self-examining and just trying to see like, how could we grow? I love when I see that happen, right? I'm like, sit down and talk with each other from this place. Because actually a lot of people have written about this. I always say this. I'm like, I'm never trying to start from scratch. I'm always collaging. I'm always trying to find like, what are the ideas that are going to flow from the beginning of time to the end of time? Like, what are those things? And like, Bell Hooks wrote some beautiful things. Men need to go read her, But I'm like, maybe I'll be a gateway drug, Yeah.
No, thank you for that. And even like when you call in Bell Hooks into the space, and the next like chapter is talking about writing imagination, right? And you talk about honesty with oneself in relationship period. Like whether it's my relationship with myself, a romantic, any relationship, right?
Yeah, like how many people in here are liars? Okay, working on it. Yeah, so much of this, the biggest loving correction you can give yourself that will liberate you in your whole life is to start being more honest with yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
Like you honest with yourself, like even the little things. You know, I tell my partners now, I'm like, I want to watch Love Island with ice cream. And it's like, I've overcome a mountain. I used to be like, I've got an organizing meeting. I've got something very important I need to do. I'm not available. You know, I would just like, no reason. I'm just like, the truth is, I work hard all day. This is what I need.
This is what I need.
Period. And I don't want to feel any kind of way about it. I don't want to negotiate it. Like even being honest about stuff like that, or I'm tired, or you're tired, or whatever's going on. You know, I'm just like, it's all good. I just have to be honest, and I have to be honest with everyone else. Like I call it congruent. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get congruent so that like however you experience me, it's always me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's when, like when I'm reading it, I'm like, we can pinpoint when somebody else been dishonest, right? But that work of like, bitch, you've been lying to yourself for 20, you know what I mean? Like, and so
people can't lie to you if you don't want to be lied to.
Indeed, yeah. So the question I have about that is like, what impact does dishonesty have on the movement, on liberation?
I love that question. Well, I've been talking to a lot of folks in philanthropy because I think there's a hi. It's like you weren't there just a second ago. Okay. I've been talking to a lot of people in philanthropy because I think capitalism, the structure of capitalism is a dishonesty-based structure, right? It's telling you something's wrong with you, which isn't wrong with you, so that you'll get something that you don't need that says it can do things it actually can't do. Then you throw it away, but they say they recycled it, they didn't, and so forth. It's just like a whole cycle of dishonesty. Then philanthropy, right, is taking a tiny portion, tiny percentage from those people who have made most of their money in dishonest ways and say, we'll give you a tiny portion of this if you lie to us about what you can do in a community in 6 months to a year, right? And then we have to be dishonest about what we actually were able to do because communities, that's not the pace at which communities are able to change. And we have to be dishonest about siloing our communities when our communities are actually all the issues always all at once. So right now I've been in a real, you know, as much as I get on a warpath, I'm just like, philanthropy, like I think we're going to look back at this period in history and see that movement was really hampered by how philanthropy was making us work. And it's time for that to shift. So when I think about dishonesty and movement, a lot of it is like, oh, like we've been made into dishonest people when we were trying to be pure for our communities, right? And the folks who thrive in the nonprofit world often are folks who, for better or worse intentions, right, are able to tell the story that philanthropy wants to hear versus the story that the community needs to actually be true, right? So a lot of, you know, like that's why I try to make the distinction between imagination and vision and what we're actually planning to do, right? So I'm like, when I'm writing science fiction, I'm not going to tell you it's a grant proposal. You know, I'm going to tell you that's like
science fiction.
You know what I'm saying? That's science fiction. That's like my wildest dream. But like in terms of what my community is going to be able to do this year, how many conversations we'll actually be able to have, how much we can move the needle on something, you know. We're in this election moment. Election season is like hunting season for liars, right? It's like, oh, the permits are out, you know, like pew, pew, pew. And I get really fascinated by how we move in the ways our community most needs us to move during an election season. And I keep trying to have conversations with people about like, can we be honest about where we are right now? Because that's the other kind of honesty we have to have, the humility honesty. That's just like, we have some power. We're able to contend for some things. We don't have the power that we needed to stop the genocide in Gaza. We don't have the power so far that we need to stop the genocide that's about to unfold in Lebanon. We don't have the power to stop what's happening in the Congo or in the Sudan or in Haiti or in the Tigray. Like, we have some limitations. And if we don't take that seriously, we will not be able to develop the power we need to be able to do those things. If we pretend that we have power we don't have. we also don't have the power to respond to most of the climate catastrophes that are coming our way, given the decisions that we've been making for the past existence. So I always tell people, I'm like, let's be honest so we can be prepared, right? That we're like, this is what we're capable of. So I think those are some of the ways I see it hold us back from being able to do the work that we could do, because we're so busy being like, well, when I've heard a lot, and I don't mind controversy. This is one of the things about not being tied to an institution and not being an ED, right? Is that I'm like, I can say what the fuck I want. And one of the things I keep thinking about in this moment is folks who are like, burn it all down. All the parties are the same. None of this matters anyway, right? And when I hear that, as I consider, I still identify as a revolutionary, but when I hear that, I'm always like, and then what? Like part of like having people wear these masks, I hope it doesn't feel performative, but there's a part of it for me that is like, folks are talking about burning it all down and we're going to take care of ourselves, but most people couldn't even wear a mask for a period of time to like protect the people that they say they love in their community and their family. Or what are we ready for, right? Like that level of sacrifice was too much for most of us. And I say most of us, including me. It's not like I'm like, I still mask every single place I go. And I did for a long time. I was a Virgo. So I was like, control. I love this, right? But, I'm like, what are we actually ready to do when we say things like that? And who are we accountable to when we say everything's the same? I'm like, are both parties that we're dealing with are imperialist? Yes, absolutely, right? Jinx. Okay. And in a two-party system where elites run this system, you can't punish one party without punishing your own people worse. So how do we navigate this eye of the needle that we're in? How do we get our people to somewhere where we have more terrain to fight on? It takes being politically honest, right? To assess your actual conditions and then to make the best decision based on those conditions. It's not about performance, right? So one of the reasons I love Pittsburgh is because I feel like y'all have a lot of savvy political thinkers here, Like it's really like folks who are thinking long term, right? Which doesn't happen on the internet. That's my other screed or whatever it is. I'm just sort of like, y'all, I was socialized before the internet. I was politicized before the internet. And so I was politicized by people who took my hand and were like, girl, that don't make no sense. What you just said, that's not a thing that can happen. That's not feminist or whatever it is. They just helped course correct me. That's the corrections we're talking about, like course correct me towards my highest self and towards the things that align with what I say are my values. Now people are being politicized in a space where it's all performance. And so then you're politicized in a way that like, I was like, you can't live in the scroll. You can't actually live your whole life in there. You might be able to relax, but I tell people limit your time there and limit what you say there, period.
The next question.
I'm here.
You have the honor
Yes.
of being chosen as resident scholar, sitting at the physical and spiritual feet of so many of our beloved, particularly in the sci-fi space. Miss Ursula, Auntie Octavia, right? In your book, you talk about Nina Simone, you talk about Bell Hooks, right? You talk about Audre Lorde. What collective wisdom do you most think they wanted you to share with us through you?
Wow, great question. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. All of them were anti-capitalists. And I think almost all of their stories, what they were trying to explore for us was that we're living in a period that seems eternal, that will inevitably change, and that we will shape the change or we will be victims of the change. They all knew that. And so we're in this little moment right now. Ursula Le Guin said there was a time when it felt like kings would last forever. Now it feels like capitalism will last forever. But there's no relevant kings now. And in the same way I can imagine beyond capitalism. But I think we have a lot of hardship to go through, actually. And I feel like they were trying to prepare us for it in a number of different ways. Ursula Le Guin she wrote these gorgeous novels, these gorgeous stories where she takes a small aspect of how society works and flips it on its head. So in one world, there is no gender, except once a month when it's time to mate, you would come in like now we have our periods. It's like everyone would have this moment where they would come into gender for the sake of mating or pleasure, just sex. It would just be like once a month, you bang it out. And you go to like a special sex house and you're just like whoever, and you become the gender that is best for having sex with whatever gender you want in there. Pretty great idea. And when you read it, you have to really think about which of the aspects of gender turn me on and make the most sense to me. And if I could just change at any time, what if this would actually matter to my identity, right? I love stuff like that. She plays with it. And then as you're playing with it, you're like, oh, gender controls so much of my life. But it's just an idea that someone made up in some ways. Like the way it's structured in my life, like someone decided like men are going to do it this way. They're going to sit like that. You know, like, I'm like, I could sit like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like all these norms, and you start to shake off the norms. Ursula Le Guin is so good at that. She wrote this book called The Dispossessed, which I think everyone who's trying to change the world should read. It takes place on an anarchist moon that is in orbit around a capitalist planet. And these anarchists have like been like, we're going to go try. You know, I always say the people who come to my events, I think of y'all as the people who are trying. We're trying a lot of different strategies. They may look like they're at odds, but we've not given up on humans being on Earth. We haven't given up on the communities we love. So The Dispossessed is like, what would it look like if everybody was equal and nobody was special? But then someone had a great idea. I love it because I'm always having a great idea. So I'm always like, but I'm special. Like, what would we do in a society where no one could be special? Like, what do special people do then? And it's like really good for me to read and be like, here's what you do. You contribute your idea and then you go do a janitorial service or whatever. But I really think it's important reading. And then Octavia, you know, I think she prepared us for change. I think what she wanted us to know all the time was like, it's inevitable. It's going to change. God has changed, changes the way everything happens. And if you can work like, you know, I think of it as my Buddhist work now, like mandala. I'm doing my best all the time. I'm trying to make the most beautiful world, the most beautiful relationships. And I've had enough loss in my life now to know that like you can pour yourself into the most beautiful thing and then that container can be swept away the next day. And it doesn't matter that you had dreams with that person. It doesn't matter that you had an idea of that place. All that matters is that you poured yourself in and like the love that you poured, that becomes the shape of you, right? Like that's what's left. And everyone I've lost, I'm like, they're in me because I loved them so well that they became a part of me and I've become a part of them. Octavia knew something about that. She wrote about that. So I think that's it. Be an anti-capitalist, understand that God has changed and that you can shape it, and then pour yourself fully, you know, whatever it is you're going to do in this life. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to do it. I think everyone's calling. I think everyone has a call. Like mine feels very distinct to me. And I felt it from very young. And I had good parents who were like, girl, you're so weird. Keep going. Like, you know, they're always like, we're so curious. Every time I've come out to my parents in some new, I'm like, now I'm this, you know, and they'll be like, interesting. So what did you think of that? Like, why are you like that? You know? And now, you know, I will say I've gotten to have the very beautiful experience of having my parents circle back and say, we didn't understand. You know, my dad said that. I didn't understand why you were so obsessed with race. Like you went off to college and came back like Black power. And he's like, now I understand. You know, like as a Black man, he's saying this to me. You know, he's like, now I get it. Like I didn't understand. I thought that we had made these moves and made these changes and we were going a different direction. And now I get it. Same thing. You know, he was the chief of war plans of the U.S. Army on 9/11. We had a hard year, right? We battled. This time around, as stuff has been unfolding, my dad's sitting down with me and saying, like, can I understand, help me understand why these encampments, help me understand why people are talking, why is this, I don't understand. And I'm like, I can talk to you about it. Like, he's listening, you know? Even that, to me, science fiction is like a space where it's like, my dad was a Star Trekkie, is a Star Trek person. How many of y'all had like Trekkie parents? or Trekkie people yourselves, okay? You're like, I'm the one, I'm old. So I feel like Star Trek for a lot of us was a way to be like, oh, there's something else, right? There's something else beyond all this. But my dad was like that. Like, he doesn't think of himself as a radical person at all. But I'm like, it matters that, like, when you had a choice in the 70s, 80s, what you wanted to watch was another world, right? And I think more of us need to be writing science fiction and speculative fiction and writing about what is it we actually desire. I think people should do this as exercises when you're starting off a campaign or starting off to work with the community. What is our biggest, wildest, fantastical dream? How would we get from here to there? Who would we have to become? And then you can work a lot from there.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm so excited. Your questions are so good. I'm trying to answer briefly so I can get more of them.
So we get a peek into your family and friends with, like, again, how you're sharing here on stage and how to survive the end of the world. So you have a whole piece of writing family. And again, you bring us in close and we're able to be and identify on an intimate level. Because I swear, I'm like, am I April? I'm like, I worked for the government. I'm a middle child. I'm the outgoing one. I'm like, right? And I was like,
my sister is named April.
Okay, yeah, so we're getting y'all in. Shout out to my sister. Hey, girl. And so can you talk with us about the importance of sustaining our most intimate relationships and how your sisters keep you grounded?
Yes. I am the oldest of 3. I have 2 younger sisters. One is 3.5 years younger. One is 5 years younger. And in the book, my editor, Jill Petty, interviewed the 3 of us about our sister relationship. I wanted to have a model of what loving corrections looks like in those longest term relationships, where we can have the least faith that the other people can change. Because we're like, girl, I saw you when you were born. You were just like this, this is how you are, So, but my sisters they have flanked me so many times. When I came out, so I keep telling this story, and Kahari, I think you'll appreciate because you knew me a little bit during this wild era, but when I came out to my parents, I didn't come out to my parents. I came out to my grandparents. I did an acid trip. Highly recommend at least once in your life, something like that. But I did one and I was like, I need to tell them that I like everything. My grandparents, my Christian evangelical grandparents need to know this right now. So I wrote them a letter while I was in that state. I have no idea what it says, but because I walked down to the mailbox in that state and I mailed it to them. And it was like, I like boys. I still like boys. So, but I also like girls. And I like this other thing that I don't even know if you've heard of, trans. And I think I would like aliens. Like I was really thinking about aliens in that trip. So I told them all of this. They sent me back a letter that was like scripture, 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 right? Really good scripture. And then they were like, you can't come visit. They were like, you can't bring your partners here. You can't come visit. My sisters, unexpectedly, were like, if she's not welcome, we're not coming either. And we stayed away for a decade. It was a big deal because my youngest sister had the kids. She had the grandkids. Okay. So they're like, y'all are chopped liver, but the grandkids, we're not going to get to see them. And it took a long time. But I didn't know I needed that. Like I'd always been the one who protected them. I'd always been the one who covered them, who flanked them. And I didn't know I needed any kind of protection. So the other major thing we talk about in there is that we're an anticipation-based family. So it's always like, when's the next time we're going to be together? We're so excited about the next holiday or whatever it is. And we would map it out. we'd be texting. And then we're going to watch all these movies. It's just like Die Hard or, whatever. And we would get so juiced up on anticipation. And then we would come together and we would blow out fight. Usually within an hour or two, bad fight over something stupid like who loads a dishwasher like that? Like, oh my, why are you always talking about me in the dishwasher? Like, and it'd just be like, oh crap, we did the thing, right? And then the dam would break And it would be like, you don't even know what's going on in my life. I just like went through a breakup and like a pair of mini pies and like da-da-da. All this stuff would come out. And then we'd be like, I love you so much. And then we'd be at a pile. We'd be crying. We'd be like sisters. So we were like, let's flip it. Whenever we get together, first things first, the three of us go off and we do our sister check-in. And we just like, what are the top headlines of your life since the last time I saw you? And where do you need me to flank you in this time at home? So I just used this strategy. I'm going through a healing journey right now where I'm uncovering a lot of my own childhood sexual trauma, and it's heavy. So when I go home, I'm not ready to like put it on to everybody yet, but my sister knows. And so when I'm home, she can just be like, you need to go take a bath, right? And I'm like, I need to go take a fucking bath before I flip on somebody, but she knows, she can see it in me. And it's so important to have that strategy, right? Because I'm like, my parents are older. A lot of my friends have lost their parents. I know how precious this time is. Like, I want to be really smart about it. I want to be really loving with them. They're just them, They're like, I don't know, you're always doing something in healing, in the therapy and stuff, Because my parents are like, I'm like, you guys should do therapy. I'm like, that's cute. We figured out something that works for us, and you figured out something that works for you, right? I'm like, if you figured out something that worked for me, that would be so amazing. But anyway, I just recommend it. I recommend like the sibling relationship is really unique. And so often it falls apart when we most need each other. But I think you can bring more attention and more intention to it. And yeah, the loving corrections that are possible there, it's like that person's not going to go anywhere. You might choose to push them away, but they're really, whoever designs these things puts y'all together in this lifetime for a reason, to learn something with each other, to do something with each other. So now I feel my siblings are a blessing.
Okay, so my last question, anyone that knows you or follows you on social media or in space, whatever, read something, you're unapologetically who you are, right? In the book, you talk about your multiple identities. You talk about the different spaces you find yourself in, holding the complexity of white lineage and that trauma, and the way it was leveled against Black people and that trauma, right? And all of the pieces. Then you talk about, as you did on the stage here, right? You like, there's a genocide going on in Palestine. There's a genocide going on, right? And we talk about all of these things that are happening in the world. And so, as I read it, the most beautiful thing I thought about is how you hold this space for the duality that I love Baldwin talks about, right? And it is, for me, watching it through the whole thing about this model of loving accountability and gently steering us away from throwing each other away. Policing, you're like, nah, we're not doing that. Why in this time is it so important for us to lean into right relationship?
Look around, right? Like, to me, I'll start with Palestine. We haven't been in right relationship around Palestine for a long time. So for many of us, we've been socialized to have a politic where all these parts align and make sense except for Palestine. So that's a wrong relationship, right? And because we let that simmer and we let that be okay, and we let ourselves be funded as long as we wouldn't talk about it, we let these things happen. Now we find ourselves in a situation where a genocide's happening, and like we have normalized not caring about that place and those people and seeing them as terrorists, right? For me, it feels really important because if we let any people become all one thing, we are signing up for the day when we will become that one thing. So even if it's only self-preservation, in the US, we understand who would get looked at as terrorists, right? Who has been looked at as terrorists, who never gets looked at as terrorists. And it's only if we're not in right relationship with each other that we can be torn apart by language like that, by stories that reduce us like that. I also think then we leave so much on the table. Like, for me, part of my relationship with white people is like, oh, there were humans before there was whiteness. There were European humans before there was whiteness. There were Europeans with songs and culture and rituals and land rituals and a sense of, oh, there's a certain kind of land that actually is mine to care for, not mine to conquer. All of that pre-existed whiteness. I think it will post-exist whiteness. There were Jewish people before there was Zionism. There was long periods of time with Judaism. There were Jewish cultural people, Jewish religious people, everything. And Zionism comes along. It's very young, but it makes itself feel old and inevitable and forever, but it's not. And so I have to believe that we will survive past it. Any idea that says some of this is only for some of us, right, is not congruent with how the earth is structured. If the earth wanted us to be separatist, it would have structured itself differently. But the entire earth is biodiverse. Every healthy ecosystem has a multitude of ways of being, coexisting with each other and caring for each other, taking care of each other. So even for me, there's been times where I'm like, it would be a lot easier if I could just be with the Black people. That's where I feel at home. When I moved to Detroit, I was like, I love this because I get off the plane and everybody I see from the plane to my house is Black, and everybody I see, like everyone I see doing everything, the people biking, the people running the farm, Black, Black, Black. It was really nourishing. And that wasn't the world, right? White folks were like, Detroit, looks like there's not enough white people there. And I got to watch as white folks were like, here we come, right? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't make sense to just keep trying to run away from them, from y'all, my white folks. There's got to be some right relationship that's possible because we coexist on this earth. I also think the earth is hurting right now. It's like really upset right now. And I think it's because the part of us that ever thinks we can draw ourselves out of the human experiment and just be like, we're just going to go over here and do our little farm, right? We're just going to get some land, grow our food, and just not look at what's happening with the rest of the world. Eventually, someone comes and tries to take that. That's how we started. That's what indigenous people were doing. They were like minding their business, like, we're not at war with anybody. We're taking care of this land. Maybe fighting with each other a little bit here and there, but like, you know. And then here comes, right, what has become the American experiment. I like to say that we're in a failed experiment, and empire always falls, empire always fails. It's like, it's a model that just doesn't work. But what happens after empire, that matters, and it makes a big difference. There are still people living in Rome, right? There are still people living in England. Every empire, there are people who survive, and then they get to shape what comes next. I think we have to see ourselves as like, oh, we are the people who are awake inside of a dying empire. And if we get in right relationship with each other, we'll get to create the conditions for what comes next. Because what's happening now in Asheville and Appalachia, that's what's going to be happening everywhere. Climate catastrophes where people are like, who can lead? Who can lead? And if the government is not showing up, but we're showing up with mutual aid and skilled facilitation and mediation and leadership and the capacity to grow food and to doula and to help people organize where their kids are going to be. And if we're showing up, like we actually do know something about how to do community because we've been practicing with each other, then we become necessarily the leadership of what comes next. We become a force that can contend for power at the scale at which life is actually happening. That matters a lot more. So right now, you know, I'm like, we're doing harm reduction, I think, trying to just see, like, can we keep any of these systems going long enough for our folks to learn how to do community with each other the way we need to? That's how I see it. But these catastrophes are going to keep growing. And I don't say that to be a downer in any way, because I think it's actually good for the earth, right? Like the less functional the U.S. Experiment is, that usually means the less damage it's actually able to do to the earth and all the projects that it's trying to damage the earth with, the less fracking, the less extraction, et cetera. But yeah, I think most of us, we're scared to prepare ourselves because it's like if we get ready, then it's like inviting the bad to come. And I keep telling people, like, at least have a go bag. Octavia wanted us to have a go bag, and she told us everything that needed to be in it. It's already in the book, Parable of the Sower, which started this year. She knew that this was going to be the year that the shit really hit the fan. It's hitting the fan, y'all. I mean, it's hitting the fan. This is it. And look around you. Really look around you at, like, who can you call on that comes out for you? Who can you call on who has some skill that you need? And what skill do you have? I've been saying this. I'm like, I don't know if anyone's going to want a facilitator poet. I've got to learn something more tangible. Like I'm trying to grow an herb garden now so that I can be like, got the meds. I got the meds. Like I clearly have not made it very far, but I know how to make mint tea.
We all need a witch around. We all need one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really beautiful questions.
Thank you. Yeah. Before I get to y'all questions, can y'all please get this woman some love?
Thank y'all.
I'll share a question that I asked recently, and it feels really aligned in some of the things you shared. And it is conflict a compelling call for courage and compassion? I feel like, what is it asking of us? And I would love for you to share a bit more, maybe, because we haven't read the book yet. But what could we deepen in our compassion? What could we deepen in our courage?
Yes.
When we are in that space. So that's the question I've been sitting with. So I'll share that. And thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. I love this question. I used to be so scared of conflict, and I used to facilitate that way, like trying to be like, I'll get the whole group to go all the way through this. We're going to feel really good. We're going to have a good to-do list at the end. And then we kind of got ourselves around the rocks, right? And my sister, Autumn Brown, who does the How to Survive the End of the World podcast with me, and is also a rock star, Autumn the band, get you some. But Autumn does consensus training. And she taught me that in consensus, if you can't meaningfully disagree, you don't meaningfully agree, right? And I was like, phew. And then another friend of mine, Jody, taught me you need to get comfortable with the tension in the room if the tension is the most honest thing that's happening in the room, right? You need to be able to sit in it and feel into it, feel what it is. And I would often feel that tension, and like I'm magic, you know, I can be like, oh, that tension's there, and we're going to bring everyone's attention over here, right? Because we have to get some stuff done. We don't have time for all that. And that was often the case is, you know, people bring you in to facilitate, and they're like, can you take in 2 days? And we have 14 years worth of work that we do need done, right? And so you're like, okay, I'm just going to get, you know, whatever I can get, the most effective piece, or whatever I think is the domino piece. What I've learned is often the conflict is the domino, right? Is if I can get people to be courageous enough, like you said, courageous enough to step in and say, I have a conflict. I have a harm that was done to me. I have a difference of opinion with the direction we're moving in. I have a difference of opinion on how we're doing it. Then we can engage in principled struggle. Principled struggle, I write about it here. I also wrote about it in Holding Change. And Tanya Lee was the person who really introduced me to it from Left Roots. And it's the idea that we're struggling for something that's larger than ourselves. We accept that this container might not hold all that we need. We're willing to walk away if it's not the right shape, right? There's just these elements. And I was like, oh, principled. That's what had been missing. That's why conflict was scary. I grew up in an environment where there was no principle. There was conflict that never got us anywhere except conquered, right? It was like one of us will win and the other will shut the fuck up, right? And I was like, oh, no wonder. I was like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to let movement do that. But now I'm like, oh, principle struggle. We're going to battle until we really find what is morally correct for us to do in this time and what we have the capacity to do in this time, right? That's exciting. And when you see groups that are like, we fought about it and this is where we landed, that's been part of, I've done this kind of micro series called Election Time with A and B. And because I was like, I'm freaked out about this election. I've been over here doing my little art thing. And I turned around and like, it's what the heck? How is Trump back over here? What the fuck? So I was like, how did he get here? He's supposed to be in prison. So, but yeah, I was just like freaking out and just sort of like how, if you're genocide and also don't want fascism, like what do we do right now? And so I brought in all these people who are like, I do election stuff, mostly Black women. And I was like, can you come talk to me about this? I was expecting a million different takes. What I got was a very coherent through line, right? From groups who have been wrestling with their own membership and figuring out how to move as a block. That was interesting to me. That wasn't what we were doing. We were trying to get folks doing that 20 some years ago. Now folks are like, we do know how to move as a block. We understand the importance of not just thinking of this as an individual emotional decision. I'm like, we have an electoral college. We don't get to make electoral emotional decisions, right? We have to figure out how to change this whole structure. So the compassionate piece comes in when you recognize that you're not always right or wrong, even letting go of that, right? And just being like, here's my stand right now. You might move me. I might move you, right? If I can have compassion for myself, that like, even if I'm wrong right now, I'm not wrong as a human, right? My wrongness was probably shaped by something. So I'm caught in a moment I was shaped in. And you're in a moment you're shaped in. And together we're going to create a new moment, right? Hopefully. And to me, it's very compassionate to be like, oh, like I'm not trying to make you less. I don't want to shrink you at all. I want to grow both of us. And I want to grow the space we have to hold difference and hold contradiction. Contradiction might be the other C that I would throw in there, right? Is that what it means to be human, what it actually means to hold humanity is that we're always holding the contradiction between life and death, at a small scale or at a large scale, the thing and its opposite. And we're always trying to figure out, where am I inside of this? Right now, that's what we're being asked to do. Can we hold the contradiction of this moment? And we might come to different conclusions about how we hold it. And depending on what state we're in, we have more or less freedom to do that. Okay? But I think that's what we're up to. I want to fight now with everybody in my life. I'm like, I'm good at this. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, let's tell me what you think. Oh, really? And sometimes my feelings are hurt and I have to take a couple of days with it, but then I come back and I'm like, okay, I thought about what you said. I was wrong. I'm wrong a lot more than I thought, but I like that too. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm still messing. I'm still putting my foot in my mouth. I'm still flexible.
Yes.
Greetings, Virgo friends. So I often sit with the question of what it means to unveil myself to myself when I've been gifted so many namings, like the inheritance of how my family sees me, the world sees me, institutions, etc. And it takes, this as a Virgo, there's a lot of work that we do internally to understand ourselves in every moment that we're existing. And I often think about how hard it is and how easy it would be for me just to say, fuck it. Let me not continue the journey towards the self. And I see that as a practice when we're kind of distancing ourselves from that honesty that you talked about, from that shaping of ourself that has already happened in our action and lack of action. And so I'm curious what you would say to us, to yourself, in those moments where you have to gather yourself to remember that unveiling yourself to yourself is one of the most divine gifts that we could be offered, because we're literally becoming aware in that essence of what is true as opposed to what we've inherited.
I mean, what you said. You said that. I will admit a couple of things. One is I still mostly need the trigger of a gather to come from outside me. I'm often moving a little too fast, trying to do too much. That's my strategy, actually. My therapist is like helping me remember. She's like, oh, so you said you were going to do this like really deep piece of healing work. And then you were like, let me do a double book tour. Right? And she's like, what? Is that what we said we were doing? I was like, yeah, I got to go to tour. I got to go on tour right now. She's like, girl, okay. And now I'm on tour. And I talked to my therapist this morning. She's like, how's it going? And I was like, I'm having a lot of feelings. But so yeah, I often part of why I have a therapist, part of why I have like multiple circles, multiple group chats. Like I have a lot of people that I'm trying to keep intimate enough that they can notice me when I'm out of alignment with myself. I had a fight recently with a friend where I misunderstood something she said, and I took it so far. I was on Pluto, like, and then she said, blah, blah, blah. And my mom was like, why would she talk to you like that? I was like, I don't know. I really do not know. Like, why would anyone talk to me like that? I mean, I was talking too fast. That's one of the first things. So my friend, when I brought it to her and I was like, how could you betray me thus? She was like, girl, I just missed a comma and you took it like, and I know you like commas as a Virgo to be well placed, but like, girl, she's like, you're so wrong right now. You are so wrong. And you're so wrong that I'm worried about you because I know you and this isn't a wrong that you do. And I was like, thank you. Thank you. Like that kind of friendship is so crucial where the person's like, my feelings are hurt, but underneath that, I know you. And this isn't giving what you need to give right now. So that helps me a lot. Then the second thing is time alone. Like I can come out and do people time. I call this people, all this is people time. But I need so much time by myself to integrate it and be like, oh, like, you know, I think the first, like when I was first doing book touring, I was like, do you think someone's really going to read this? You know, and everyone's like, people don't read books. Nobody reads books. So just get that out of your head. Come up with talking points about it. You'll tell those people the talking points. They'll be like, I love that book. And I was like, okay. Then then the next time people came and they were like, here's your book. It's all marked up. I tabulate. I did things. I read it. And I was like, I have to take myself more seriously. And that's been one of the biggest gathers I've had to give myself over and over again in my life is to be like, other people are taking seriously what God is pouring through me, but I'm not taking it seriously. And then what is that? You know, I think of the story from the Bible, Jonah. Do y'all know that story? Jonah, I keep thinking about this. I grew up when I was a kid, I was like, Jonah's my dude. Jonah and Jesus were like the ones in the Bible that I was like, that girl, that could be me. Jonah in the Bible. How many of you know this story? How many of you are like, what? Tell me about Jonah. Okay, so Jonah in the Bible is this random mofo moving through the world doing his thing. God is like, hey, I need you to go tell these people that they really need to get their act together or else it's going to be like, you know, vengeful God time. And Jonah was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go. So Jonah tried to like say no to the assignment and go do something else. God came in again and was like, you need to go do the assignment that I gave you right now. Jonah tried it. No. Eventually, Jonah tries to get on a boat trying to get away from God. God said, storm, storm, storm. And now you're in the belly of a whale. I told you what to do. Go do your job, right? And I remember being a kid being like, well, what if he doesn't want talking in front of people? You know, which has been one of my lifelong struggles. Like now I'm very comfortable with it. But for a long time, I was like, God told me I was supposed to be singing. I can't do that. God told me this. I can't do that. Only getting congruent with myself has allowed me to be like, it's not about me, right? Or it's not even about my concept of what God is. It's about like the assignment is so clear. I wake up every morning with it and it's just clear. And if I get out of the way, then I'm able to do a lot more. And I don't want to sound morbid, but I'm going to die. All the people I look up to have died. Not all of them, but a lot of the people I look up to have died. And I see what happens. I see what happens to the brilliant people who are too scared to write it down. The brilliant people who are like, I'm going to get to it, but I don't know. I just like, who's going to listen to me? I'm like, you had an assignment, but you were waiting. You were putting it off. You're putting it off. And I want those books from my ghost friends, right? My whole Grievers trilogy is like fiction about all those people who were my teachers who didn't get to write their books and they didn't get to be heard in that way, but they're all on those pages because I'm like, someone needed to know that Charity Hicks knew everything. right? So we got to show people who she was. So I feel that way where I'm like, write your books, answer your call, do the assignment. You know, the belly of the whale is all around us now, right? But we have work to do. And everyone's job is different. I hope that I do my job really well and then I can go be a hermit. Because I got big hermit energy. I'm like so happy with like a cardigan and a fireplace and like, you know, Hobbit house or something. So I keep waiting for them to say the assignment is complete. I do think with this book, I think part of what I was supposed to write that's specifically for movement, that does feel like complete. The next book I'm writing is about love. And it's like love as a politic, love as practice. And it feels like a bigger undertaking. But yeah, answer your call. Yeah, throw it on the ground.
Mic drop.
Hi. Hi, Adrienne. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you, both of you.
Gabriel, right?
I'm Gabriel.
Yeah.
So when you were talking earlier and you mentioned the dudes and loneliness, you know, I kind of felt like you were pointing at me, which is great, you know. My one saving grace is that I'm queer, so it's like, yay.
At least you have that.
Yeah. And so I've been talking a lot with my friends, naming it loneliness and just trying to humanize it.
Yeah.
And in my life, in this iteration of my life, I'm, as a Gemini, I'm looking at duality.
Gemini.
Yeah, that's me. And there's
You queer Gemini?
Yeah.
Oh. So fun. You don't even need other people. How are you lonely?
Well, here's the thing. It's like there's loneliness and then there's solitude.
That's right. That's right.
And loneliness aches and then like solitude loves, I feel like. And loneliness says, I need you, whoever you are, to need me so much that I no longer need myself. And I'm yet to discover what solitude will teach me. My question or my ask is one of several things is, but please answer how you see fit. What has loneliness taught you? What has loneliness shown you? And or how are you in relationship with loneliness? Thank you.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, first of all, you're a poet. Do you write poetry? Okay, good. Do you publish poetry? Well, get to it. So, yeah, I feel like you said, what does loneliness teach me and show me? Is that what the?
Yeah, one of those, just like how do you interact with loneliness?
Yeah. Okay, good. I think the first thing was that I was trying to make people into the companion that would eradicate my loneliness. So I was like, you know, I would meet someone, they'd be attracted to me, I'd be attracted to them or whatever. And I'd be like, you know, this is a good start. It's like a sourdough starter or something. And I know that if I keep you in my fridge for a while, and if I pummel you the right way and add like the right ingredients, like maybe you'll nourish me, right? And loneliness, I kept feeling so lonely. I would be with people that said they loved me, with people who wanted to spend time with me, with lovers, with friends, with family. And I would be so lonely. And then I would be by myself. Like, I wish I wasn't by myself, but it's better than the loneliness that happens when you're with people and you're not letting them connect to you, which I used to externalize all that. So it was always like, they're not right in these ways. And I can point out, like, they don't listen well enough. This person always interrupts me. This person, the way they kiss is kind of weird. You know, Virgos come up with very shallow, ridiculous reasons. I mean, kissing is also very important. It's not shallow. Contradiction. Right? I'm like, if you don't kiss right, you can still be my friend. Anyway, I don't have to be lonely because of that, right? Is what I'm trying to say. So what I found was I needed to change how I was in relationship to people, like how much I was letting them see what I actually needed. And I needed, there's a line in emergent strategy that's trust the people and they become trustworthy, that I really had to work on at an intimate level, which was like, I have to trust this person. I have to show them who I actually am and give them an opportunity to meet the real person. And then if they can't do that, then I need to set a boundary quickly, like not keep being like, oh, next time I will, or whatever. I'm like, they really are not available. But then the people who can meet that, I have to let them in. And they might not look or feel like what I expected. I have several friends who are like super close to me. They still feel like mysterious strangers sometimes, but they're the people I know best in the world, and they're the people who know me the best in the world. So I think that's the thing. When you said, what has loneliness shown you? There's a way that you're never going to fully know anyone else. Like, you're really going to fully know you, and even that is like, keep spelunking. There's more, right? Mm-hmm. But that has been such a revelation to me that I'm like, the loneliness I'm experiencing is not, it's not for lack of trying to get to know people. It's for lack of acknowledging, like, there's a mystery. That's what I can know. And I can know who they are right now, but they're going to be a mystery. My parents are still a mystery to each other. They've been nonstop around each other for 48 years. They work together. And my mom will still be like, I don't know why your dad is like that. I don't know. And I'm like, yeah. Esther Perel talks about that a little bit, that part of what makes a balanced relationship is like the combination of safety and mystery, because then the safety allows you to rest down your system and be present, but the mystery allows desire to still exist. The desire, like, I want more, I want to know more, I want to find and learn more. I think we all need to fall in love with ourselves, and loneliness sometimes leads to that. Hafez has a poem, Let It Cut More Deep. And it talks about that like sometimes the pain is so deep that you're like, oh, the need for God I have is becoming clear. I think spiritual practice a lot of times is what emerges from loneliness. Is when I'm with my ancestors and with the holy, I'm not disconnected. There's no self to be alone, even if I'm sitting by myself. But I'm like, oh, with other humans, I'm like, we're all on a spiritual journey. And the most connected I feel is in moments. It's not this like continuous thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like a constant thing of being like, oh, now. I really like solitude now. I love solitude now. I fight for it. I used to fight for like, I need more people. I was laughing with my cab driver, the guy who was driving me around today, because I was talking about being poly. And I was like, yeah, I thought poly was going to make me never lonely. And what poly was, it made me very busy. I was like, now I've got to manage so many schedules and so many desires, and like, oh, I'm not supposed to call you this and da-da-da, whatever. But eventually I was like, I need alone time. I was like, I can't bounce from person to person. I need alone time. I need solitude to like integrate love, and integrate my grief and all those other things. So yeah, I think maybe moving from loneliness to solitude is like maturing, right? Being like, oh, when I'm alone, I feel grateful for my solitude. And then when I'm with others, I feel present. Like I can actually be present with them. I don't spend time around people you can't be present around. It's not fun. And also don't spend time around people you can't feel alone around. For me, like all of my friends are people where I'm like, you do your thing and I do my thing. Sometimes we do a thing. Don't think I'm going to do your thing all the time. I'm not. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. This is the section right here. Okay. Hey.
Peace, sister.
Hi.
I thank you earlier for making all the bad decisions in life that brought us together. Yeah, I think we should celebrate bad decisions.
Say it again. Let them hear what you just
yes,
said.
I said I wanted to thank you for all the bad decisions that you made in your life that made this moment possible.
So good.
In a death-phobic culture, how do we learn to trust death? The end of things, the end of ways of being, the end of systems. An offering, please, to help us trust death.
Yay. That's what I was like, okay, that's the best. In the book, I share a story of a friend of mine who went to this meditation retreat. And when she came back, she was like, the thing they taught us was that the teacup is already broken. And she was like, it was so profound. And you know when you're trying to tell someone like some profound thing and you're like, the teacup's already broken. She's doing that thing, right? And I was like, but couldn't you like not drop it? You know, she was like, no, it's already broken. Like if you're thinking about the, you know, she was like, everything that you were trying to protect, everything precious is already fragile and it's already broken. Everything you love is it's inevitable. It's already dead. It's already back in the ground. You know, that for me did it. That did something that nothing else had ever done, where I was like, oh, like I have been trying to beat death for me and for the people I love. I've been trying to steal time and be like, I can, if I just do this right, and if I make this arrangement with God, and if I make this sacrifice or something, then I'll cheat it. And it made me not precious about the days, right? I was like, I'm going to act like I can take all this for granted because I'm going to make more of them. So don't even worry about it. And it was like, it's inevitable. You only get so much time with everyone you love. And it's never enough, ever. Like I've never lost someone. I was like, well, check. No, I've always lost someone and been like, but I was just, and we were gonna, you know, like we're in mid-story. I'm still in mid-story with you. How can you not be here? So this idea now of like, even when I'm with people, especially when I'm with people where it's like there's some challenge to it, right? When I'm with people and I'm like, it's hard. You know, this relationship is a harder one. It doesn't come as easily. Family can be like that, where it's like, this doesn't come easy. But if I think about the fact that I'm like, in my whole life, I might see you 20 more times, right? With parents, if you visit your parents, you know, if you live around your parents, that's amazing. You know, you get a lot and you can be more annoyed maybe. But for someone who doesn't live with them, you know, I'm like, I see them a few times a year, 4 or 5 times a year. I see them a lot for a grown-up who doesn't live with them. But I'm like, even if I keep up this rate, there's this limitation of how much I'm going to be with you. And I'm never going to know, like, when I'm going to actually lose you. I want to be with you like that. I want to be with you with the consciousness of being on the other side of the loss, right? And bringing that, like, when I can't handle the moment, let me borrow from that future grieving self and bring that self here and be like, oh, I can make this one of the best moments I have with you if I bring myself all the way into it. And I know that, to me, that's the gift of death, right? It's like, we're not going to be here forever. This is precious. We don't know exactly what's going to happen on the other side, no matter how good our theories are about it, no matter how strong our faith is about it. We don't know for total sure. So this might be it, right? My grandmother is like, as soon as I get to the other side, I'm going to be with your grandfather, right? And I'm like, I love that. In that story, she's with him all the time. So that's how she's made her peace with it. She's like, I know he's there and I'm here, but we're going to be together. And when she imagines it, I see her go hug him. I see her go to him. She's just with him. And we figure out ways to just keep being with our folks. I highly recommend an ancestor altar and having a space in your home where you allow the people that you love, their spirits, the energy, whatever matters of them for you, to be all together. Because I really like to think of them all together. When I get a new ancestor, I'm like, I need you to just meet all these people. I could never get you together in life, but here you are. You're on my altar, and so you're going to know each other because you're all going to have to help me out. And then I think coming to terms with your own death, like finding your own right relationship, doing your own will, thinking about who your resources go to. If you're over the age of 30, I really think go ahead and do it, right? That way it's done, and that way you've come to a place where it's like, oh, my death will not create stress for other people. It'll only leave grief, right? I think that's a gift that we can all start to offer each other, right? Yeah. And then talk with children about death. Kids are so cool about it. They're just like, so what? You know, they're asking you questions, but ask them back. Well, what do you think? Where do you think we go? Their answers are much better than any book that's ever been written. Well, I know that when I was an alien, you were? Oh, okay. All these kids I've been meeting under the age of 5 are telling me, you know, like if you ask them, they like remember something before. And they're like, a lot of it, I don't know. anyway, I don't want to get all conspiracy theory, but I'm like, they know some stuff and they still remember. So you ask them, it's like, it's comforting, you know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else there. In my fictional work, I keep playing with this idea that when people die from injustice, when people die wrong before their time, that their spirits become massive allies in the battle for justice, right? That has also really helped me. When I see these mass amounts of death happening, I'm like, ooh, so you're just fortifying the shit out of our spirits then. So you really want to lose this, right? And I don't know what, for me, that helps me balance something.
Peace. Thank y'all for listening to the interview with Adrienne Maree Brown and Celeste Smith. Hopefully you got some loving correction from it. Adrienne's book is available now, as well as the many books that she's written that are more relevant now, more than ever. We will be back next week in our regularly scheduled time, in our regular seats, giving you all the new information. But we hope you enjoyed this special episode. Peace. One hood, y'all.